Welcome to Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. Each week, the NI Bullpen will be covering the world of comics, talking to creators, deep diving into some fantastic stories, and much more. Now let's hand it over to the team and turn a page.
And what is going on, everyone? It is Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you are tuned in to a very special edition of Turn a Page, the official comic book club for Nerd Initiative. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also Nerd Initiative Editor-in-Chief. To my left, you're right at home, but he's in the middle of the team here on the screen, so he does his own intro. It's in his contract.
Coming at you live and direct, straight in between this dynamic band, which my name is Off the Cuff Tom, Nerd Initiative's pop culture connoisseur, Ken, Lauren, Rich. Always a pleasure.
That is indeed right. We have the man in the chair joining us on screen. You know him as the host of Wrestling Night Live every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Nerd Initiative YouTube. So you want to make sure you hit that subscribe button. But he is also one half of the editing team here at Nerd Initiative Comics. I shouldn't say half because we got about 6 editors that all do amazing work, and you're going to find out more about that as we go on. It's the one only Rich.
That's right. My job titles are getting longer and longer. My sleep is getting shorter and shorter. I have walked really like 1 million miles this past week, and I'm happy to be here. Exhausted, but happy.
Would you walk 500 more?
I would for you. I would walk 1,000 miles.
Indeed,
just to open the door.
Indeed. And last but certainly not least, one half of the dynamic duo of Drafts and Dialogue, bringing you the pop culture knowledge you need to know each and every single week. It is Lauren from Hops Geeks News. Lauren, what is going on?
I am back home safe in warm Florida. I'm no longer freezing, but yeah, I too am still recovering from an absolutely amazing weekend.
See, that was such a Florida comment because honestly, it was a gorgeous weekend in New York for us New Yorkers.
it was tepid.
It wasn't 3 years ago when I was wearing shorts, but it was close.
It was close, but there was a lot going on because what we're going to be talking about on this special edition of Turn a Page is recapping the pop culture event of the year. Hailing from the Big Apple, it is New York Comic-Con. So the event took place this week at the Javits Center in New York City, and a lot of news was happening, and the team at Nerd Initiative was there in full effect. Especially, we had other members joining, like Janelle. We had the GEO himself came up.
GEO.
Hey, GEO. What? What's that mean?
Was there as well? Oh, well, we can't say on air, but we will tell you. Maybe that's for a Patreon episode. We'll have to get into that.
Maybe we'll start doing Patreon Nerd Initiative because you get the behind the scenes.
I still don't. I need to know too. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we will have to let you know off the air. But I will say this: we should have smuggled in the throne picture. I'm kind of upset that we didn't do that. But
yes.
When we get a Patreon, we'll have the throne picture as our picture.
Absolutely. I mean, we had Nick, new guy Nick.
I got to see Nick.
Yeah,
I love it, from the wrestling team. The wrestling squad was in full effect on Friday in New York Comic-Con. It was great.
Yeah, it was all three parts of the ring.
Yeah, Juan knows comics. I mean, we had so many of our team down there giving you the coverage you need to know, and there's a lot to digest from this week. So that is why we're going to be devoting this entire episode recapping the events that went down at NYCC. So chat, super chat, wherever you are, you want to make sure that you're subscribed to Nerd Initiative YouTube and make sure that you're hitting that subscribe button, tap that bell for notifications, and give the thumbs up to let the GEO know that you like what you're seeing on here, because we have a lot to get into. And Lauren is going to kick us off because even though it's Comic-Con, there's a lot going on in the land of TV and streaming. And AMC Network came out with a lot of information from some of their shows, and you were fortunate enough to be in attendance for the press rooms for this. So why don't you kick us off and let's talk a little Mayfair Witches.
Yeah, so Mayfair Witches, we got to watch the first episode of the second season, which does not come out until January 5th, 2025, which they did announce at the panel. So getting to watch the first episode was actually really cool. And then we got to sit down with, you can see 3 of the actors from the show and 2 of the behind the scenes people. We got to ask all sorts of questions about, what was the hardest thing translating from the books to the show? What are you most excited about? And we got a taste of these new characters. I think the highlight was talking to Henry Hamlin. Like, it was so cool. I know him from Mad Men and so many things. And, just sitting there getting to ask him questions was my favorite press room, because nobody else was really asking questions. So I got to ask the most, and they could not have been nicer and warmer. And honestly, the most fun is to ask the questions to the showrunners. It's not even the actors. You want to know like what was their inspiration and everything. So that was absolutely, and that was my first kickoff to New York Comic Con. So it was just all a little like, wow, this is really happening. But yeah, my article should be up pretty soon on that, and it's a short little review of the episode, no spoilers, and then just some fun facts we got about the upcoming season.
Yeah, I mean, to talk about Thursday kicking that off, and especially we made mention of that on the preview episode, which is available still on YouTube. Thursday is usually the easy day to kind of get your surroundings in, kind of, get the layout of what's the boost to go hit. This Thursday was the first one, I think, at least for me, and obviously super chat panel jump in on this. This was probably the most loaded Thursday in recent memory, if ever.
First of all, I would like to say you have to give Lauren her flowers because she came in literally. She's not taking enough credit. She literally got off a plane and came to New York Comic Con and covered.
Yes.
It's so nice though. You can check your suitcase. Like
yes,
that's really cool.
That helped out a lot. But literally off the plane, straight to the Javits, straight to covering. So give her the credit there. But yes, I also agree. Thursday was really weird to actually realize, and we'll talk. I know we'll be talking about it later, but to realize that we were doing a panel at 11 a.m.
Yeah.
Like until this year, I've never been at a panel at 11 a.m. on a Thursday.
I was at the shrinking panel at that time, talking about season 2. That article's already up on Nerd Initiative with Jason Segel and the whole cast and Harrison Ford, and it was a blast.
Yeah, I mean, there was just so much going on too. I mean, it was one of the biggest multimedia showdowns at 11 a.m., which we'll get into in a little bit, because Marvel came with their biggest panel, and DC, not to be outdone, came in with their big streaming hit, The Penguin, as well at the same time. But like we were touching upon, AMC really came in and made a big splash out of the gate. And then one franchise, I should say, because it even though it's talking about dead zombies, it's not going away anytime soon. Came in with a monster presence itself. And Lauren, you were in attendance for this. Let's talk about The Walking Dead, shall we?
Yes. So this was one of the most exciting things I thought was I didn't know Jeffrey Dean Morgan was going to be there. So he was added later. So they talked Daryl Dixon, Book of Carol, which we see the cast here, as well as, Greg Nicoteros. I feel like he's become a household name just from all the Talking Dead, and, he does all the zombies and everything. That was so much fun. We got to hear how they were met with applause when all the zombies walked in France. And he's like, we're not used to this. This is Georgia. So that was really kind of cool. You don't need to explain The Walking Dead to anybody. Everybody knows The Walking Dead. So it was really just fun to get to hear some of the fun facts and the differences from going from The Walking Dead to these spinoffs, with Dead City as well, which is, the Negan and Maggie show. The thing I enjoyed the most hearing Jeffrey Dean Morgan say was, you're going to be surprised the places Negan goes this season. And both shows sound like they will continue so long as they are permitted to continue and they have good stories to tell. And I've been watching Daryl Dixon. This season has been great.
Yeah, I've been catching up a little bit here because with The Walking Dead, I mean, to see the run that it came from the comics and how it exploded into pop culture and became one of the biggest shows in all of television pop culture history. And to see the spinoffs are still going strong, especially in the case of Daryl Dixon, who we have to remind everybody was not in the comic the entire run and blew up so well on the show that now he's in a spinoff. Now he is literally the face of the franchise, and where they're going in the story, which, I mean, I remember the Visitor story, which is a spinoff story in the Walking Dead comic universe. And this kind of has me having the same vibes being in France and just seeing how everything's playing out too. Like it just goes to show like the fandom is keeping this alive, and the fact they're still coming with new stories, especially the popular characters involved. It's a big win. Wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. They're going to Spain next, man. They're playing Risk with the Walkers. Exactly what I asked them during the panel, which had them all cracking up.
Yeah. I mean, and just some of the footage here too. I mean, Daryl Dixon doing Daryl Dixon things. And Lauren, you've been raving about this series. Do you have any kind of like idea where we're going, if you can say spoiler free?
Oh, okay. So we know it's called the Book of Carol. So we obviously know Carol has shown up. I have not watched the episode on Sunday. I just haven't had time. But we got to have that inevitable reunion, of course. And I think certain things are happening for Daryl that have never happened in the entire season, personal wise, which I am very happy for him. And I think that they've done that relationship beautiful and natural. So I think we're going to see some of that. And they've been a lot of testing of faith, which I think has been very interesting. We're seeing a lot of those, sometimes the scariest people are the ones that, do these scary things in the name of God. And we're seeing that in this season. And that's been interesting as well.
Yeah, no, like I say, they're taking some chances with these franchises, and especially now that the books are over, you're really allowed some creative freedom to really run wild with the characters there, and that's always a big win. Speaking of a big win, there was another show that you've been raving about as well with all of us here at Nerd Initiative, The Franchise. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so this is already streaming on HBO. They played an episode of it for us there. And I didn't realize it was already out, or I would have watched the other ones before I went. But this was quite hilarious. It's got Aya Cash in it, which is Stormfront. It's got Zemo in it, whose real name is escaping me, but you know him as Zemo. And it's got, some other familiar faces as well. And it is hilarious. So what it is it's a show about a team making a superhero movie, but they are making fun of everything that we enjoy out of superhero movies and everything that is absolutely terrible about superhero movies, about their fans, about the production team, all of this. So the episode I watched was they have a woman issue and they have to fix this woman issue and they have to make the woman more powerful. And of course, people are complaining, oh, it's not comic book accurate. Well, what is you can't just make stuff up. It's all made up. So it's really funny.
Yeah, like they say, the premise for the show is definitely one that is catching, especially when I saw Baron Zemo come on there too. I was like, oh, and just to see how this, like I say, it's an interesting concept. And I think just when you can kind of play off the typical themes of the superhero aspects, it always proves for great quality.
Mm-hmm.
But like I say, there was so many other shows going on too. And especially when we're talking about shows, one really was jumping out that hasn't debuted yet, but I know that this was the talk of Comic-Con coming into the weekend, because obviously when you're hearing about DC films, DC studios, they're really making a push for a brand new era. And we got to see the Creature Commandos trailer at the show. Super Chat, have you been, how excited are you about this franchise? And what James Gunn came in with the cast, and they were really unloading a lot of secrets. Just really giving you an insight about what they're doing here, which if you haven't seen this trailer, I highly recommend you track it down. It is absolutely wild. It's animated, but it still captures the sense of what James Gunn is doing and really kickstarting a whole new universe, almost in the same vein as the parallel to the absolute and all-in movement currently going on with DC Comics right now. So let me ask the panel here, are you excited for Creature Commandos?
Yes.
A simple yes from Tom.
I howling from Tom.
C.
Yeah. Lauren, how about you?
I'm excited. I'm always a little hesitant when it's animated and then when it's DC, but it's James Gunn, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand some hesitation because I think everybody is really waiting to see, because I know we're all keeping our eye out about Superman, and obviously the teaser image came out too with him and Crypto, and really saying like, okay, what is this era going to be? Are we going back to the Snyderverse? Are we doing something different? How is this going to be received? Like, there's just so much excitement buzzing around about this whole movement that I think this panel definitely carried a lot of energy. James Gunn didn't give away a lot. He was very interactive with the fans and very appreciative, and so was the rest of the cast. And where we're going to be going with this, I mean, is definitely a lot of fun.
If I can please add into this, so the DCEU, the DCAU, the animated universe that did the 17 movies were freaking perfect. Whenever the hell they went to that Tomorrowverse BS, it sucked. I'm going to say it right there. I love DC. I love my characters, but you guys messed up big time with the Tomorrowverse. So this being James Gunn's first real big thing in his whole universe, and on top of it being animated, this is the huge makeup that we deserve. I'm just going to put it out there. Remember, Tom's views are not that of Nerd Initiatives.
Although I will second it. I will second your view of the DC animated universe.
The Tomorrowverse.
Well, no. I'm saying that the DC animated universe was amazing.
Okay. Was amazing.
The Tomorrowverse
Perfect.
kind of dropped the ball a little bit.
Sucked.
Because we had a lot of great movies that came out. So I really feel like this is a return to form. Even though James Gunn is new to DC, obviously, I feel like this is a return to form of great animation that we used to see from DC as a studio as a whole.
Yeah. No, I think there's a lot to be excited about. And especially with how DC was approaching this entire weekend. I mean, it was a big celebration. And this kind of rolls into something else that we were very fortunate to attend. I know there was a few parties that were going on this weekend too. So, I mean, we'll kind of kick off that we were talking about Rich and I and Padawan Jay were able to attend the fandom 20th anniversary or birthday.
You mean Padawan Jay's bachelor party in honor of him getting married this upcoming weekend?
Yes,
Or
definitely.
at least that's what we sold it as while we were there. Yeah,
Yes.
so everybody. No, yes, we were very lucky to go. I mean, every time we're around Tom is the real party. So
I wasn't there.
I know, but you were there after where we went after that, which I was getting to. So, but anyways, going back to the fandom party, it was a great time. Really awesome. We got to bump into a bunch of people. Shout out to our homie Almega.
Yes,
out there
if
he's watching, and also Michael Kingston. We got to bump into him as well. We've talked to him a lot. Great party. It felt like that blow up big thing that you showed. Put that back on the screen. The fact that there was somebody in there controlling and dancing with that thing was amazing.
Oh my gosh,
So
amazing. And so fandom,
like
they throw a party. Oh yeah, it was so cool. They throw a party, and then after, well, actually, at the same time, what were you doing when we were at the fandom party? Before we talk about after,
So Lauren and I and the GEO. We were all at the Thrill Joy party. Now, for those of you who don't know, Thrill Joy is a brand new company that just did its big debut down at New York Comic Con. It is started. There you go. There's you took him out of the box.
I had to fly home with him.
I got all mine home.
I always take him out of the box. I'm sorry. He's not Stinky Pete. He's out of his box.
Anyway, so
I'm not going to sell him.
A new company started by one of the former heads of Funko. As Lauren just showed up there on screen, that is Blue. So Blue is going to be the mascot for the Thrill Joy brand. Funko has Freddy.
Adorable.
Thrill Joy has Blue. It was an amazing party, a rooftop party. There were some celebrities there. If those of you might be on the TikToks or the Instagram, Dimitri, the DJ, was there. He also went on and did another party that weekend. We ran into Cleo Thomas, if you guys remember him from Holes.
Mm-hmm.
And then we ran into a few of my other friends, and the show before the show, the guys who were there doing all the DJing and MCing at the panels. And the swag. Oh my God, the swag.
I was going to say, you guys got a lot of cool stuff, but I will point out, it was ironically enough, we traveled via Uber to our party because it was far enough away. And if we would have gone to the Thrill Joy party, it was like 3 blocks from our hotel.
Yeah.
We passed it and I was like, oh, that's where that was.
But it was just to celebrate. I mean, obviously everything going on at the Javits, and there was a big buzz going around all 4 days as well. But to really kind of capture those outside parties, definitely want to shout out Fandom and Thrill Joy because they really took care of us this weekend too. Very cool experiences. If you ever get the chance to go to them, definitely want to make sure you get the chance.
And we met up at the Supermassive get together afterwards.
That's right.
The 3 of us at the table did. Also Padawan Jay stopping over and visiting Kyle Higgins and company over there at Barcade down in Chelsea.
Playing Bishibashi.
So everybody was having a good time. So, I mean, listen, we're not a lot of going out, but you know what? That Friday night was a cool going out session. I mean, prior to that, we had a nice dinner with the GEO as a big group. I mean, we were only missing a couple members, unfortunately, but still great time. I mean, I feel like Friday was one of those days where we did a lot of work during the day, but we kind of giving a shout out and saying thank you to the Fandom party, Thrill Joy party, Supermassive get together. And then just to be together as a team and hanging out and actually having a really good time, especially after doing all that hard work, was awesome. And so I can't say enough. So thank you to all those great places because you allowed us to do that. And it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, definitely. Oh, go Lauren.
We're just going to say it was great networking too. Like the DJ people that we met, like they work here in Orlando at Disney. And we were thrilled at Thrill Joy. So getting to meet people that are at Disney. Oh yeah, you should hit me up. We can do an interview about this. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Like there's a talking tree at downtown Disney Springs. And he told me he invented Push the Trash Can. I was like, that's so cool. We've talked to Push the Trash Can many times. So these are like little things that only people who go to, Disney more than the average person probably know about, but that are a lot of people are interested in. So I think that it was such a cool experience for me because it was my first like real press event. The other cons I've gotten press for are not like this.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing about New York. It's a whole different vibe. It's a whole different energy. It is just, like I say, it's the best con to go to because you get a lot of pop culture exposure, whether it's anime, whether it's movies, whether it's TV, whether it's even V-Friends. Shout out to Gary Vaynerchuk and the whole team there. You get so much there that goes around, but at its core, you really dive into the comics. And there was so much comic news coming out. And I'll kind of even piggyback off of what Rich was alluding to. We open up with one of the biggest panels of the weekend. Image Comics and Black Market Narratives enter the Massiverse. And if anybody has been reading the Massiverse line, big things have happened with that issue that's on the screen right now. That's Radiant Black 30.5, which is the end of the Catalyst War. And at this panel, you had Geraldo Borges from No One, Matt Groom from Inferno Girl Red, Rod Reyes from Cowl 1964, Ryan Parrott from Rogue Sun, and Kyle Higgins from Radiant Black and No One there addressing the crowd. And one thing that they did in this panel, and I would definitely think more panels should take this up, is they broke down each character like if you were a new reader. So if you had no idea about any of these books, they broke it down for you that you could just jump right in and pick up an issue and you'd at least be somewhat familiar, and then you can really deep dive into it. And we got a lot of news going on here. The biggest things for me is obviously they're working on the No One documentary film. That was the huge news that they alluded to at San Diego. We got a little more details with that. And especially with the voice actors, they're going to be reprising their roles on the feature film. So Patton Oswalt, Rachel Lee Cook will be back, and that is always going to be fun. And like I said, if you haven't checked out No One, it is one of the best series of the year. The murder mystery that haunted the Massiverse and how it all played out with a companion podcast is just something that Black Market Narrative does better than anybody. I feel is they're very in touch with social media and in touch with the fans today, that when they're jumping in a Discord, talking up with fans, when they're doing QR codes, when they're being very interactive, it's kind of building this strong fan base. And you see it pouring over into the books. And this panel definitely gave a lot of information out. We do know that Radiant Black is going to be gone until February, and then they're coming back and they're going to be going strong monthly, which we do have the definitive Radiant Black and Marshall Ward. And where his journey is going to take him is going to be anybody's guess. Rogue Sun, we got introduced to a new Rogue Sun per se, if you've been reading the book, and also an update about Inferno Girl Red. Like, Rich, you were in attendance for this. How was your vibe from this?
No, it was really cool. I like how there's always a jumping on point with the Massiverse. If you haven't, checked it out right now, they have where you can, they're putting together a bunch of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Trade
paperbacks. But even further than that, there's some other awesome companion pieces coming out to the sides and everything else for everything going on there, and launching just even more stuff going on. And like when you're at the panel, you get to learn a little bit more about like what makes things tick. And like I said, we got to see some really cool art of a future character coming to Rogue Sun. Rogue Sun's going to be off also until February or March as well, because they're kind of just doing this like restart point from where you came out of the Catalyst War, and everything else is kind of following suit. And for most people, you would think, oh, that's kind of like a bad thing. But I think this is a great time for people to jump on, catch up, and then jump into even more, because they have big plans coming. And that's like the most important thing you can. And I think the team there is doing an amazing job. And I just can't say enough about how much of a fan we are of their work and what they're doing there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, if you get the chance to check it out, definitely check it out. Another series that we definitely want to talk about. I know, Lauren, you have a lot to say about this one as well, because Boom Studios came with Something is Killing the Children, 5 years of the Slaughterverse. And there was a lot of information going down here. So what was your takeaways from this?
Well, we already knew there was a Netflix show coming, and we both even mentioned we were surprised they didn't even touch the show because there was just so much to talk about with the comics. So they seem to be very excited about the future. They mentioned they have at least 100 issues in their mind. It sounds like Boom is like, you can go even further than you want with that. And they said to look forward to a lot of flashbacks with characters. So if they killed off one of the characters you love, their story is not necessarily over. And which I absolutely love, because I love getting to know, the more you go back, the more you understand that character. And, I truly love that. And the state of where Erica is now, which I don't want to spoil because it just recently happened. And I read trade back. So I didn't even know that when they mentioned that. I was like, what? So yeah, it's my own fault. I have the trade backs and they look so pretty together. I didn't want to buy the single issues. But yes,
I understand. We could all understand that.
Yeah.
I looked at it like this. I was very happy with how the panel went. It was cool to kind of hear everybody's thoughts and what their takeaways are going, forward, and even in the past for Something That's Killing the Children. Also, big shout outs for mentioning they have the sub story there and Hello Darkness, which is awesome. If you're not reading that, that's an anthology horror book that Boom Studios is putting out. it's amazing. And they have a good storyline going in there. And I like how it came out. And James Tynan said this was actually one of my original ideas for Something Is Killing Children, period. Just Erica sitting in a bar and hearing people talk about their conspiracy theories of monsters. And I was like, that is amazing. Because they don't even know it's monsters. They just know something's happening. And that's what they're doing in that storyline. And if you're so there's so many companion pieces as well. I know it's going to be my punch word here is companion pieces. And you'll never get tired of that world because it's just ever expanding.
Yeah, it's an amazing franchise to get involved with, especially the spin-off books. House of Slaughter is amazing. It's like self-contained stories involving the different members of the Order of St. George. And they just kicked off their brand new arc this past, 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, Lauren?
I think it was last Wednesday.
Or last Wednesday. So it's a perfect time to jump in now and really see what's going on here. And like I say, with the spin-offs they have coming and the TV show looming, I mean, Something Is Killing Children is already one of the best books you can buy each and every month. But let alone now, it's going to take off once it gets to Netflix. Mark my words, it will be the next big thing in pop culture.
Yeah.
Without
so pick up those issues now because they're going to be hard to find.
Yeah, get those covers. Get those covers.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Speaking of another big brand that's about ready to make a break, we had the fortunate pleasure of being front row and center Saturday morning for Ghost Machine 1 year in. And Rich, why don't we start with you? Why don't you talk about this lineup and this event?
This lineup is like an all-star who's who murderers row of comic books. Let's be honest. Anytime you get to see Jeff Johns doing things, mind you, I am wearing a Ghost Machine hat. Even this is not the one that I got this past weekend, so thank you to them. This is actually the original one I have. So I have two ones now. So awesome. We support the brand. If you saw any of the videos we put out, Ken was wearing a Ghost Machine. So it not only do we support the brand in that way, we're just fans, like massive fans. And how can't you be sitting there hearing Jeff Johns break down all the books he's writing with amazing artists, obviously hearing some more where they're going with Rook Exodus in the not too distant future since they've finished with, arc one, since they're doing story by story. We found out they're doing that very chapter based, which is super kind of cool in a world. See, since you get to call your own punches, you don't have to, tribe to the normal comic book philosophies, if you will. And that's pretty awesome. I loved how they really spent a good amount of time talking about their family books that are all launching. They're doing a little bit of everything for everybody. I mean, honestly, the art is phenomenal. I know we heard Jeff Johns say that it's the best art in any comics. Fight him about that.
Yeah.
And hey, listen, I can't disagree. I mean, I've seen some great art. Don't get me wrong, and I'm not crapping on anybody, but it's amazing. The storytelling is also amazing. Everything they've gotten going on. You were doing horror, and all their horrors kind of tied together. I thought that's really cool. And how with the Hyde Street books, you're like, here, this is what's happening with the on the bad guy side, if you will. And then, hey, we're gonna do this other set of books, these little side stories where you learn about it from the the unsuspecting victim, if you will. We'll call it victim. You know what I mean? Victim. I just think that everything they're doing concept wise it's a gamble because it's not the norm.
Yeah.
But it's so exciting to hear them talk about it because it just seems to me that it makes more sense than the norm.
Exactly.
If that makes sense. I know it's kind of like talking in circles, but it's wild. Like that we are used to a structure of comic books and how they come out, and they're like, hey, no. We're doing something similar. We have and the fact that they'll always tell that we're never going away from legacy numbers. So that's awesome.
That was amazing.
But at the same time, they're taking these big swings, whether it's taking a break, doing just arc to arc, chapter to chapter, if you will, or even in the case of, hey, we're going to take a book that we're putting out and it's coming out monthly, but then there's going to be these sub stories that come off of it and one shots. That's just phenomenal to me. I wish more people did it. But hey, kudos to Ghost Machine for being those guys.
Merchandising.
Hey, listen, they're great at it.
Yeah. I mean, Lauren, what's your takeaway? You were front row and center with us.
So, I've been loving what they've done the past year, but the level of excitement I had when we left that panel was much higher than it was before. Just seeing all these little things and like the little crossovers they're going to have. And like Rich was saying with the spinoffs and whatnot. And, Kat, their like PR person goes, oh, you should cover Devour when that comes out. And I was like, okay, that sounds phenomenal. I would definitely do that. So I was just so excited to see that they love our reviews and that we are loving what they're doing. And when they, a couple of them got emotional during it. And when you see the creators get emotional it's like, that's why these stories are so good, because they're truly putting so much heart into these stories. And in the art, matches the stories, which is always perfection. I love them giving Jason Fabok crap about how long it takes to create his art. And then he was complaining about like, why did I give, Rook so many buckles and whatnot? So it's fun to hear those little side stories, because you don't think about that when you're looking at it. You're just like, wow, this art's amazing. You don't think like, how long did it take to draw 72 buckles or whatever? But they also gave us these little teasers for Rockefellers and Hornsby and Halo. So I thought that was fun. As we were walking in, everybody got those little things. So that was very cool, because I'm very excited for this story, the nature versus nurture. And they went more into this story and what it's going to be about. So it's like these things that we heard about a year ago, we're learning more about, and we're so close to getting these full stories. And yeah, I'm super excited. And I got a hat. And I love it.
Yeah.
Hats galore, by the way. I listen, it's a good time. I mean, setting aside the hats, but like they're just what they're doing is just in the fact that they all love each other. They're a family. Like that's what you get from them when they're talking, is that they love each other and they're a family. And it's amazing to see. And I'm super excited about everything they're doing.
Yeah. The one takeaway too, that if you watch video that's been popping up, I know we have some stuff coming. Watch how everybody is listening when somebody is talking at that table. You see all of them are just beaming with excitement for everybody else. And it's just so much of a team camaraderie there. Like, how can you not support them?
I'm just beaming excitement with you.
No, I know, Tom.
Okay.
I know. We'll let you talk in a second. Okay. but it's just something, it's something that they do that and like what Rich touched upon too. It's like, it's such a DIY movement and such a gamble to do, but you can see they have so much faith in their stuff and how they got so emotional. Like, you could not leave that panel without going like, where's their books? I need to go get some if you were a new reader, and just like really carry that excitement with you. So they do a phenomenal job about establishing that. So definitely want to give them their shout outs. Another universe that was definitely making a lot of noise, and this is one that Tom got a chance to hit the press room for, because there's a monster book coming out in November that everybody's going to be yelling 2 words. Yo, Joe.
Overland at sea and there.
Yes. Skybound Entertainment came and had a phenomenal panel talking about their Image Comics universe, the Energon universe, arguably comics' biggest universe right now, with the success of Transformers, the G.I. Joe spinoff stories, Void Rivals. A lot was happening here. Tom, you were in the press room about this. Why don't we talk about it a little bit?
So the press room was absolutely phenomenal. They broke it down to have Kirkman by himself, and then they had Team G.I. Joe, and then they had Team Transformers. So it was really nice to have a nice little break up, and shout out to everybody else, because if you guys don't know what a roundtable style press room is that there's several people at the table at a time. And you might not get all your questions off, but you might also learn some questions from other journalists that really will make you think. There was a young man at one of our tables that honestly made me go, wow, I didn't even think of that. I need to up my game. That's one of the other great things about New Comment, but that's beside itself. These guys know their franchises. It was fun asking, with drawing the characters, what are things that you're looking for? What are things you try to avoid? When redesigning the Joes for the new modern generation, what are some things that we're trying to look forward to, but at the same time looking in the past looking for that inspiration? Transformers getting their scale. How is it that the storylines are all going to interweave? When are we going to finally start seeing, Joes in Void Rivals? It's coming. Mm-hmm. It's coming. I can tell you right now, it's going to be issue 13. Yep. Issue 13. We will have Joe.
I wonder when that comes out. I also remember. I wonder who's writing that review.
They said it if they put it out there, they put it out there.
They did. They said it at the panel.
They said at the panel.
Yeah. It was really fun, and the best part is that at the press room, what was so nice is to see other folks like myself that enjoy the Joes, enjoy Transformers, ask questions as fans, but to ask them in the in a style that doesn't sound like we're sitting in mom's basement going and issue this on panel 4 and in page 5. It was really nice. So like when I was asking like constantly about are we getting Mask, they're like, man, you guys really know about Mask. So apparently Mask has been asked more times than not. I'm just gonna put my theory out here with everything that's going on with Cup. All right, Matt Tracker needs to take Cup back to Boulder Hill and rebuild him as one of the Mask vehicles. Put a mini con inside to become the jet ski.
He's out.
He's out.
I'm out.
Well, Let's switch gears to the panel though, because obviously Tom had a lot of great stuff coming out of the press room, but at the panel also had a lot of great stuff. And I want to start off by saying the Energon. If you go to a con and the Energon universe is represented, you need to go to the panel.
Yes.
It is one of the most entertaining panels you'll ever go to. Much like the Ghost Machine team, the Skybound team seems to all get along and mesh well. We were missing one of the funniest members because we did not have Daniel Warren Johnson there.
Right.
No.
However, and he is missed. But Robert Kirkman on a panel, and mind you, he's a legend at this point in juncture, but on a panel, the man is amazing. I say the two best people to have hosting a panel is him and Will Dennis. We'll talk about that later.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, you had, Joshua Williamson there, and the art, everything going on. At one point in juncture, they brought up the fact, I do believe it was Sean, their head there. He brought up the fact that, hey, there's one character that's missing. And of course, the room's going Snake Eyes. Of course, in honor of Tom, I go, what do you think I said?
Shipwreck!
Yeah.
I got kind of to chuckle. Everybody else was like, why is this guy even saying shipwreck?
The amount of double takes was amazing.
Anyways. But they left the open-ended question, but that was really cool.
Boy from Chula Vista.
I love the fact that they don't give too much away, but yet they give you enough to kind of go out and go, hey guys, this is what we've got going on. Joes are coming to Void Rivals. We're getting some big movements. I don't want to spoil anything, but we're getting some big movements with even some more Transformers in the Void Rivals books, including a very controversial Transformer, if I might add. There's my tease for everybody. And then, just all the stuff that they're doing and putting together this big, massive, finally rollout for G.I. Joe.
Would you say they're taking a big risk?
Oh, I would say that they're really hot rodding on it. But I will also want to throw this out there. I think that what they're doing is magic, and they're doing some different things. Like Joshua Williamson, and this isn't a spoiler because obviously we all know Baroness is on the G.I. Joe team, which in story she started there. But Joshua Williamson even teased like, hey, I know all of you are going to be waiting for her to turn. Well, it may never happen.
And that's good.
He goes, I don't even know. I'm the one writing the story. I haven't decided when she's going to turn or if she even ever turns. So you guys are going to be waiting for it, and that anticipation is going to be there. And it might not even pay off. And it wasn't like a haha moment. It was like just telling you that there's so much in this universe that they can do that we might all be expecting that's not going to happen. And that got me to think like, man, this is why the Energon universe is one of the best universes in comic books right now. This is why Transformers is, think about how much they sold in Transformer books.
Oh, huge.
And I think G.I. Joe is going to do just as big things because this is a universe where we actually don't have an idea. Like we have zero clue what's really going to happen because they can change. Issue 1 of Transformers, they killed Bumblebee. We got to see Daniel Warren Johnson get. Oh, you know that? This is last year. By the way, last year's New York Comic Con, they open up by somebody saying, "Hey, this is the guy that killed Bumblebee." Daniel Warren Johnson got booed off the stage, and he goes, "I'm a real heel. Boo me. I love your tears."
Yes.
And then the first question was, "So we all know that things come back in comics, so you're going to bring him back?" And he's like, "Oh, he ain't never coming back." Never. And everybody was booing him because he's like, he's never coming back. And then he followed it up by, I don't like drawing him.
Yeah.
Which was hilarious in its own. But it was really cool to see that they're taking big swings. Hasbro's letting them take big swings.
Yes.
These are Hasbro's property.
Yep.
And they're letting them, Bumblebee is one of the biggest stars of the franchise. And mind you, this is a year old. This isn't from this year. And they killed him off. So when you have that, and then you have the fact that they've decided to mess around with the Joes and put Baroness on the G.I. Joe team and all this. You never know what's going to happen in this universe. And when you think you know what's going to happen, they change it on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do. They did such a smart job about establishing each entity and doing the slow build when everybody finally meets. Because you think about Void Rivals, one page spawned into Transformers. Transformers 2 spawned into Duke getting introduced into the Energon universe. It went to his solo series. We've now been gifted 4 amazing origin stories.
Mm-hmm.
Much in the same vein, if you wanted to look at like the MCU, gave everybody their solo films first, and now everybody comes together. It's kind of in that same feel, but different. And it really establishes each character as their own unique vision that Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley is doing. Sean Makowitz is editing, and Jorge Corona is drawing in Transformers, and Robert Kirkman and Void Rivals. Like everybody had this different take on their universe characters and like how they're all going to kind of work with each other. And it's very refreshing, especially when you think about the pop culture aspect of it, because Transformers is a big movie franchise. G.I. Joe definitely has his moments as a big franchise. And then now to see how they're all going to play together, especially with the talks of the joint movie coming out, like there's a lot of pop culture eyes going to this book, and these books are delivering.
I also like what Kirkman said during the panel. He said, listen, we're not tied into the movies. He was like, but we can all agree Transformers 1 was amazing. And he's like, and we're looking at what they're going to be doing in the future with the franchises moving Transformers and G.I. Joe together. And he was like, and we're rooting for them to win. They're rooting for us to win. We might not be writing things together. We might be joining them. We might be 2 separate entities or 3 separate entities. However, we're all rooting for each other in this whole universe of everything we're doing. And that's amazing in its own. And speaking of, before I turn it over to Tom, because I know Tom's got something to say here that's going to be pertinent. But I also want to point out with those origin stories, Joshua Williamson, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves, because that Cobra Commander book showed everybody why everybody fears Cobra Commander. You think about it, his allies hate him, the Joes hate him, but somehow everybody does his bidding and goes after him. And then you find out in that book why.
Yeah.
So it's amazing work that they're doing, Tom.
And don't forget, all those prequels or origin stories are all up on Nerd Initiative. But speaking of separate entities, they made it very clear that Larry Hama's run is still going to keep going. It will be separate. It is still beautiful. It'll still take place in our classic G.I. Joe Real American Heroes stories. And they made it evidently clear that when you go out and you look on your racks on November 13th, you are definitely going to see the 2 different G.I. Joe logos, and you will be visibly able to tell the difference between the new stuff and the Larry Hama legacy run. So please, either way, keep an eye out for them. Enjoy them both. Enjoy them separately. See, where we're going and where we come from and where we're going. But it is all good in the hood.
I wish I had more time to get stuff together. I flew in here from work, just so everybody knows. But they gave away a cool, like, I wouldn't even call it an ash can. It was more like a cool teaser issue of G.I. Joe #1 coming out, and it was really cool. So listen, if you're not down in the Energon universe, if even if you're like, hey, Transformers are not my thing or G.I. Joe's not my thing, it doesn't matter. They're changing the game, they're changing the rules, and they're doing some of the best stuff. And once again, I can't stress enough, if you had a chance to see anybody from the Energon universe in a panel at a con near you, go see it, because once again, you can see that they're putting a lot of love and heart in it. I mean, there was a good joke where, like, Joshua, when Joshua Williamson was going to say something and Robert Kirkman cuts him off, and he's like, oh, what are you going to cry about another action figure we wouldn't let you put in a book, Josh? Come on.
Yeah.
That's another thing. Put that out of here, Hasbro. You're watching us. I know you are right now, because I'm putting it out in the universe. Okay, G.I. Joe classified line, awesome. And if you're working on the Skybound line, I want to start getting those new Skybound characters or new designs done up as figures. I need to kill all my shelf space. Make it happen. Make it happen.
Spend his money.
Like we say,
shut up and take my money.
Image Comics had a big weekend, and definitely another panel that stood out on Sunday morning too, which Sunday morning was a loaded day as well. And if you haven't been reading Image Comics lately, they are literally breaking ground left and right. And we got some news about some books that definitely want to be on everybody's radars as they're coming out, because Rich, you were in the panel for this.
Oh, absolutely.
We're talking Bug Wars. We're talking Lucky Devils, the Horizon Experiment, the seasons. Like, let's get into it.
Let me say this. This was a fun panel too. And it was early. And when you're early on a Sunday, I mean, these guys just went above and beyond, and they definitely were entertaining. Starting off, Lucky Devils, Charles Soule doing Charles Soule thing. It's great. I mean, basically, in a nutshell, if you see the image, because Ken had it on the screen a minute ago, but we'll probably put it back up in another second. That is the book for it. It's 2 devils who are the devils on your shoulders, who decide that the only way, they're anarchists though, so they decide the only way they can burn down hell is if they get their humans to do good things. Mm-hmm. But of course, there's a twist. They don't give us a twist, obviously, because you want to read it, but it's just such a great, and the art's amazing there. Then you have Bug Wars.
Yeah.
Bug Wars. Like, we can't even say most of the language that was said in this, because there was a lot of F-bombs going on.
Yes.
I mean, not to mention there is a book coming out that literally is MFing monsters.
Yes.
And that was talked about first thing in the morning. Listen, man, they take big swings over at Image Comics, and I think that they win a lot of these times. A lot of the stuff conceptually that they were talking about sounds amazing, and I cannot wait to read it. And it was all things that aren't part of like a bigger comic universe. This is all like, basically, independent. They're just being put out there by Image, and I love all of it.
Yeah, I mean, what Image Comics is doing right now too, if anybody hasn't been going, really check out their solo series that they've been having. Black Cloak has been amazing. Falling in Love on the Path to Hell has been on point. Local Man, unfortunately, is wrapping up, but that has been one of the best series of the year. They're really taking creative swings with a lot of creators to really go push the boundaries and push the limits of storytelling. And we're getting some of the best work in comics, bar none. And then you think about with the other entities that are here, like the Massiverse, Ghost Machine, Skybound, like everybody is putting out so much great work. But Image is really focused on letting the creators be the creators. And that was the vibe of this panel. And that was something that I think every Image panel we went to, it really carried that feel.
I thought I was having a conversation with Sam Jackson that morning. There was a lot of MFers going on, and not in a bad way though. It wasn't like, like distasteful. They're just talking about some really cool stuff. Like, Bug Wars is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids meets like, adult, I don't know, Conan the Barbarian, I think it was.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy. So like you have these creatures that are tiny and it's insane. And then there's some adult situations we're not going to talk about on the air, but it's great. And like they just, I don't know. I'm gloating because it was one of those things where Sunday, it was a long con. I walked into the panel and was like, oh man, usually we try not to cover panels on Sunday, but we're doing this because Image is usually, awesome. And we walk in and I'm like blown away. I came out of that panel like juiced.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh man, I'm ready to conquer another day of con or 2 days. And I was already tired. So that should just tell you, it was amazing to hear all the stuff went down there.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to Lucky Devils, obviously, after we did 8 Billion Genies.
Mhm.
Just to see this. I know it's not a follow-up per se-ish, maybe kind of in the same line, but I don't know about that. But I enjoyed 8 Billion Genies so much. So to see the antithesis is definitely working one up for me.
I was going to say, Lauren, we got Charles Soule writing and Ryan Brown drawing. How excited are you for that?
Very much so. After reading Barfly, I'll take anything Ryan Brown draws.
Yeah, and he's just...
You're going to have to fight me for this one.
I was going to say, this one is going to be one of the most highly sought after reviews of Nerd Initiative. I already know this right now.
We've said it online. We got the highest dibs.
Well, actually, no, it was already kind of claimed offline. Anyway, we'll talk about it.
Damn it, Rich.
I didn't claim it.
Yeah, sure.
But
I'm being serious. I didn't. I played Bug Wars though, just so you know.
But speaking of online, though, we did have the fortunate pleasure of going to a certain event off-site about one of our favorite lines, and a lot of news is breaking from Comixology Originals. So this event, if anybody has not been checking out Comixology Originals, you're missing one of the best lines of comics out there. And especially the deals that they've had worked with Dark Horse Comics to come to print. A lot of these stories that you're seeing digitally are now making their way to the comic shop. So you definitely want to go check them out. And we got some more information on that. So I'll let my partners in crime here, we were all in attendance for it, take it away.
First and foremost, I want to say thank you to Comixology for having us back at the Amazon headquarters again. This breakfast is becoming one of my favorite things every year.
Hey, can you give me some juice?
Yes. Can you give me some juice? Can you give me a mimosa? Let's throw it out there. Coffee. It's not even because of the breakfast. It's because it's really cool. And they created this really cool atmosphere. I mean, you can talk about, a lot of things and you go places and get gifted things and that's fine. But when you go somewhere and you get to I had a long talk with their marketing manager, and it wasn't even about comics or marketing or what even we do. We were talking about upstate New York. You know what I mean? Because she went to college up here and we live up here, and it was just amazing. So just put aside what we heard, because I got to get real excited about something in a second. So in the past, Comixology has just been published. When they publish a book, it's been by Dark Horse. That partnership continues. There's still books being published by Dark Horse. However,
and then
we have added for Comixology a couple more publishers, Blaze and Mad Cave Studios.
Yes.
So they will now be printing some books that come out as Comixology Originals. And where this touches my heart, because we know that I was on Turn a Page for this not once but twice, because we love these creators. Our friends of the show will say, because I love hanging out with these guys, Clay McCormick and Ricardo Lopez Ortiz. Their book, Hard Style Juice, is coming to print thanks to Ablaze. I literally am in the room. We're at a table in the middle towards the back. Clay McCormick is there. He's towards the front. I hear the news. I turn, I look, my face just drops, and I point, and he looks over at me, and he just gives me the thumbs up. He had just found out, and then I came up to him promptly after, like, why didn't you tell us? And he's like, I just found out at midnight last night. Literally, he was signed at midnight last night. And it was crazy.
Best part is watching him have the biggest shit-eating grin on his face when he went,
It was because
really
the book is amazing. We didn't know if it was going to ever go to print.
Yeah.
And those guys are two of the most awesome people we've met. So you root for people like that. And to now know it's going to come to print, so more people are going to get to see it. And everybody we've recommended it to has come back and been like, oh my God, you have to read it. So if you haven't read it already, go to Comixology and read Heartstyle Juice. If you have an Amazon Prime subscription, you get that for free. So go ahead, read it, because it's amazing. There's also other tons of amazing books on there, but I just want to take a victory lap for friends of ours, and such a good moment. But there's also, with these deals, though, this is going to bring far more of these books, because there is still people who are not sold on digital comics. I know we think it's crazy because obviously we in a line of work for two reasons. A, we love reading everything, but B, as reviewers, most of what we read is digital now. Because it's not like you usually get a hard copy, you just get a digital copy. So like for us to read comics digitally, although I will say the watermarks get in the way, but you know what I mean? Like just peek behind the curtain. So we have gotten used to that, but there is still a lot of fans that are not, and that's fine. Keep reading paper, because I want that art form to never die, because I go out and buy the books to collect them.
Yeah. See, like the one thing that I think people would get scared about with the digital aspect of this is, oh, I can't go to my comic shops and get them. The deals that they have to work out to bring these stories to print is more of an incentive. Like I remember Scott Snyder said this a couple of years ago at a Comixology panel, and to paraphrase a bit, he was like, it's kind of like giving a sampler. Like you can read the story. If you really love it, you're going to want to go out and get it. And that's very true to a lot of these stories, that once they're coming to print, I'm going out and buying them, because I think they're fantastic. And they really do have you find such a wide variety of creativity that comes on this line. And you can really get lost in it and really have just like this very cool experience, because you never know what's going to come out from this line, but it's always top level creators really giving you top level stories. Like what else could you ask for?
And if I'm going to sell a digital comic real quick, I'll say it this way. I have a whole edition of Night of the Creep, and I have it. It's never been opened. Like I've never turned a page in it, because I don't have to. I've read the book, so it's awesome. It's a nice little collection, because I'm a collector, and I know a lot of comic book people are collectors, and we all remember like trying to not break the binding as you flip through your comic book. And now, if you're that collector, this is a perfect way for you to read the book and not have to actually destroy, your collection.
One other thing that they did plug as Amazon as a whole is they are now putting out a new product that is going to be like a Kindle for color, that it's going to have that exact contrast for reading your books as well, especially when it's pretty much designed for comic books. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Well, that's what they said. They were saying that it's a colorized Kindle, and it's not going to get your, like how your iPads and everything looking that vibrant, but it's going to give, for comics, it's going to look amazing. And they kind of showed us a little preview. And it's going to be, and that's what everybody who's seen it has said. This is going to change the game for graphic novels and comic books. It looks amazing.
There's a lot. Interesting. Oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff coming on the way from Comixology, and especially they're announcing some of the new books coming out. Scott Snyder, Jack Snyder, Valerie Favakosha. Buy a Thread Book 2 is coming out.
Yes, I'll give that a round of applause too.
Yeah, I almost I had
you had an out of body experience.
I did, because I absolutely love that story.
I don't know how you had an out of body when you were expecting this, like you were wishing for it.
The best part about it, though, is I'm glad that he kind of caught himself before he let it go, because he let out the LFG, but not saying LFG, saying the full Tony Khan. But he somehow, like, as the first word went to come out, I think he realized, and he went and he sucked it in. So it was mouthed, but it would have come out. It was amazing. I'm just throwing it out there. Mind you, we were at a professional breakfast. Although I don't think they would have minded for some reason.
I don't think they would have either.
I don't think they would.
Because I think they're just happy. Like every creator there was just happy to hear the excitement and the applause for all the books coming out. And there's a lot of stuff that's going to be on the way, and we're definitely going to be covering it here at Nerd Initiative. Like we say, there's a lot going down at New York. Obviously, when we think New York, Marvel Comics came with a lot of stuff. Great panels left and right. The Women of Marvel panel was amazing. And they kicked events off as well, too, with another standout one, which is Marvel's Next Big Thing, which I'm just going to kind of show the graphic for. I know Lauren is our Wolverine aficionado. So, Lauren, Ultimate Wolverine is coming. What is your take seeing this?
Mortal Kombat.
I am just loving that we are getting so many different Wolverine stories at once, and I'm here for all of them. I did not make it this panel. I think I was in the baggage line dropping off my suitcase when this panel was going on. I would have loved to be there, but I absolutely can't wait. I mean, I haven't read a bad Wolvie book in a while.
Yeah, and this one definitely has got a lot of buzz behind it. The Ultimate Universe right now, as it is currently, has been some of the best books at Marvel. Ultimate Spider-Man, arguably the best Marvel book out right now. Arguably, I think Uncanny X-Men by Gail Simone and David Marquez gives it a run for the money. But there's a lot of great Marvel books out.
So I like, so the takeaway here from being at the panel, me and Ken pretty much go to this panel every year, unless I have to go take photos of Tom Hardy. That's another story for another day. But when we're there, the takeaways from especially the Ultimates line is I liked what they said. They did not want to do what they did before with the Ultimates line and make it all encompassing and everybody's in there. So they're trying to keep it small. So they have the 4 books that they're doing in the Ultimates line: Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther, Ultimate X-Men, and then of course the Ultimates. And then they are adding a 5th, which is Ultimate Wolverine. And they hired, that's the word, Chris, because Chris Conrad's going to be doing the book, who does a lot of horror stuff that I've been doing. Really cool. And they gave him the green light. So this is going to be a very violent book as well. We can expect blood. They told us that. It's going to be really, really, really good stuff, like Red Band trailer type of things. They're talking about putting one of the issues in one of the the smut bags, if you will, you know what I mean? So you can't see it. That's what I equate it to, because when we were kids, sorry, the young folks out there, they don't understand what the news rack used to look like, you know what I mean? So it's amazing. I thought that it was a really cool announcement, and the art was phenomenal. They even teased something that's hidden in the design. If you see some of those pictures, you'll notice right away I think there's going to be something real special about this Wolverine, not just the normal animanium claws and regeneration. I think there's going to be a little superness to this Wolverine. Ken would attest to as well.
Yes, indeed. There's going to be a lot of things coming out with this too, and I definitely have to go back to the Women of Marvel panel, because unfortunately the graphic did not load.
Yeah, I know.
But they have a book coming out, Women of Marvel She-Devils. So This is going to be Stephanie Phillips and Allison Sampson leading an all-star creative lineup when this comes out February 26th. And we're talking Echo, we're talking Laura Kinney Wolverine, Elektra, and this is definitely going to be a book that everybody's going to really want to check out. Women of Marvel panel, I heard nothing but amazing things about, and like I say, I got to catch a little bit of it online, but it was like one I was like, this is always a great one to attend.
Well, let's be honest, it's Stephanie Phillips. She's a friend of the show. Anything she does is awesome.
Listen, right now, Marvel's got one of the hardcore greatest lineups of women's contributors.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm not crapping on anybody else. I'm just saying that right now, and to highlight and spotlight this is amazing in a book, and it's going to blow everybody's socks off. I think. I think we can't even overstate how amazing this book is going to be, especially with the creators involved.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. And there's especially another Marvel panel that I know, Lauren, you want to break down, because
wait a minute, before we move on, you forgot the big news. The big news is the big year event for Marvel, and that would be.
Oh, that's right.
You did forget that. I don't want. I will make it short, because there's not a lot to go by. We did get to see an image, but we are going to get what was it? One World Doom.
Yeah, One World Under Doom. This has been the fallout from Blood Hunt, and there's going to be a series done by Ryan North, who's been writing Fantastic Four, which has been amazing, and giving you a little breakdown of the Emperor Doom reign.
Yes, and there's even an Emperor Doom book coming to kick this off. And of course, now that he's out, he is also the Sorcerer Supreme, so it's going to get interesting. And their gift to us, because every year they gift you something at this event. So the gift to the entire crowd was a Fantastic Four number 13, which isn't the newest book, but there is a reason why. But we had a special cover. It's awesome. By the way, Doom wearing the cape is amazing. But that was the first appearance of Dino Doom, and Dino Doom is going to play a big role in One World Under Doom.
Somebody call Devil, damn it.
Yes, we have a Dino Doom, and it looks incredible. Yeah, that's going to be the rise of Emperor Doom with RB Silva on art.
Yep.
So that is going to be one to check out. And then, like I was alluding to, we have the Marvel Fanfare panel, which I know, Lauren, you were in attendance about. So let's talk about that.
Yes, so this panel was a lot of fun because it just kept getting bigger and bigger. So it started with Frank Miller talking about kind of his comic origin story, and he was talking primarily about Daredevil. And then Charles Soule came out and Steve McNiven, and they announced a new Daredevil comic book they're working on that will be out in May or in April, and that's called Daredevil Cold Day in Hell. And they were talking about a specific villain called Muse, and the moderator was like, "So is Muse going to be in the show?" And they're like, "I don't know. Why don't we ask someone else?" And out comes Sana Amanat, which, if that name sounds familiar, I might have butchered it. If it sounds somewhat familiar, she's one of the co-creators of Miss Marvel. You probably recognize her face. She's been in many Marvel documentaries as well.
Mhm.
And she came out to give us a little bit of info about Daredevil Born Again. And then they asked, "Do we have a release date?" And she goes, "I don't know. Let me ask my friends." And out come Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio to talk a little bit behind the scenes of, getting everybody back together, what it's been like to put the suit back on, not just the yellow suit, which we saw in She-Hulk. They asked him, what was the difference between playing your characters from Netflix to Disney Plus? And then they announced that Daredevil will be out on March 4th, 2025. And they played the trailer, which if you haven't watched the trailer yet, go to YouTube, go watch the trailer. It looks phenomenal. I got emotional watching it. It looks like the Daredevil we all fell in love with on Netflix many years ago. And one of the funny things that Charlie Cox mentioned was one of his first panels at New York, or the first time he came to New York to do the panel to talk Daredevil years ago, he was warned ahead of time, do not go out there pretending like you know more about Daredevil than the audience. They will roast you.
Mm-hmm.
And then we all also got a gift, which again, I'm not used to getting. And this was a variant cover for Daredevil number 14 from 2015. So
Ooh,
Sweet. That's
very
awesome.
nice. Yeah, Marvel always has great giveaways at the end of their panels too.
And here's the question: Is he still a really, really good lawyer? Like, he's a great superhero, but is he still a really, really good lawyer?
he's not a really, really good lawyer. He's a really good lawyer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
There you go.
Like I say, the fact we're getting the show that really capped off a big weekend for Marvel. Like I say, they like to claim that it is their home turf, and they do not like to be upstaged by any stretch of imagination. They always come out with big announcements, big events. It's always a big feel. But this year, I think this might have been the first time in a while that they did not take the top crown, in my opinion.
Oh no, not by a long shot.
No,
I think the big company that won the weekend, although a smaller presence on the floor,
smaller presence on the floor,
but a huge presence in the panels.
yes. And that was DC Comics. And they came with some big news at all of their panels. The photo you see here is from Janelle from Nerd Initiative. She was in the room when they announced DC Vertigo is coming back.
Wow.
And that is monster news. If anybody is not familiar with this line, this was, in my opinion, the first original mature readers line. This came out in 1990 from DC Comics. And
Has
this
it been that long?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Jeez.
Yeah. Like, this is when you saw Sandman, Doom Patrol, Shade the Changing Man, Preacher, TMZ. Like, the books that you see that get translated a lot to TV shows now were there, and it really gave a creative outlet for stories that were not traditional superhero stories by any stretch of the imagination. And it is one that when I heard this news, I was shocked to say the least. Like I say, it was 1993 to be specific. I'm sorry. And ran till 2020. And then I know they've gone over to the Black Label, which has been more superhero centered stories.
Mhm.
And we've had fantastic stories there, but now they're coming back with Vertigo. And the first story that's coming out from that is The Nice House by the Sea, which is out. James Tynion and Alvaro Martinez Bueno. That is going to be now coming out as the Vertigo line. There's a lot to process with this. So, Tom, I'll let you go first. When you heard this news, what was your reaction?
I was just shocked and amazed because I remember there were times when we were talking particular episodes of Turn a Page, going over other ones. It's like, and I'd ask, well, is this Vertigo? Or is they still making this? No. Because if anybody knows, I don't really do the big two when it comes to doing the comic book reviews. I like doing the indie stuff. So when I get one, I'm like, oh, I'm going to hang on to that for a second. But to be in the know, but to hear that name come out, for me being just right outside the bubble, the lead bubble had dropped.
Yeah.
Truth.
Yeah, I thought it was a great move, especially when you see, once again, we were just singing the praises of Image Comics. DC kind of getting into the image business of having a more creator owned. I don't know. Obviously, they're not letting the creators own it, but it's still that feel. and especially with you having your first major release being from James Tynion, who is obviously a rock star in the world, whether you're talking Something's Killing Children or one of my personal favorite books, The Deviant. There's so much, there's so much the big bucket of wind there that I think that this was a no-brain move, but it was also a ballsy move, because let's be honest, like DC has been on their heels for a little while. I mean, right now they're kind of the belle of the ball because we had the big all-in event followed by now the Absolute line. And so why not strike when the iron's hot? And I think that was a perfect time for them to launch the Vertigo line, or relaunch, I should say. Sorry, it's not the first time they've launched it. And I think, coming off what they were doing with the DC Black line, it was okay, but I think people saw through it. You're just going to put out DC heroes in adult situations, if you will, and it's like no, we want books for adults, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what they've done here.
Vertigo really draws that line in the sand between your friendly book to your grown-up book.
Yeah, no, I would say so. Lauren, what do you think of the status? Like, how important is mature readers' books to be out on the shelves?
Bless you.
For me, I think very important. Like, there are, comics that I read and I'm like, I feel like this is targeting a younger audience and I'm not enjoying it as much. I might enjoy reading it to my kid, but I think it's incredibly important to maintain the adults wanting to read the comic books.
Yeah, no, I think that it's tremendous, especially, like I say, 1993, like that era of comics, like Image was getting born. You saw the X-Men were still the #1 book in the world, and like that was taking over everything. And then you get Vertigo, which really made an emphasis to be for older readers. And they said, like, listen, the kids that have grown up reading Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman for us for, eons. Well, now they're older. Like, can that story relate? Well, why don't we give them something that they might understand more and be more like lean towards? And it's amazing. Like they say, if you want to go through the history of those books, like that is a lot of the stories that I can't emphasize enough. You see the influence in today in the comic stories, and you see it on the big and small screens.
Well, you look at it this way. I mean, speaking of somebody who's been on the show and also we're a major fan of, like Scott Snyder, Neil Gaiman doing the Sandman. And you remember that's what Scott said. Scott said that he's one of the most influential people in his career.
Yep.
Like he's one of the people he's looked up to. If there was no DC Vertigo, we wouldn't have had that.
Yeah,
it would have been awful hard to put out a book like Sandman without that line. And like reading The Room, DC blew me away with this, to read The Room, to look at the current state of comics, to look at all of these creator owned lines and what Image is doing and going, hey, we could do that too with a big tube budget. And I'm interested to see where this goes. And to echo something Tom said, I, as we know, cover a lot of indie books. When I'm reviewing books, I'm reviewing like Babs, Barbarella, the list goes on. Sorry, it's amazing. Epitaphs of the Abyss and etc.
Pedestrian.
Pedestrian. Oh, well, I'll make sure I talk about the Pedestrian by the end of this thing, by the way, just so you know, so I can gush some more about it. But my whole point of the matter is I'm reading a lot of these books, and now it looks like, oh, shoot, DC is putting out something for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's awesome. Not that I don't like the big two, because let's be honest, I still love me some big two action, but I'm like, oh, crap. This is really kind of, I need to read this book now.
Yeah. Like I say, there's a lot of excitement going on with this. Another bombshell that got dropped at this panel. Jim Lee is returning to Batman with Jeff Loeb. Hush 2 is coming out March 2025. Rich, how about your reaction to that news?
First and foremost, anybody who knows me knows that I'm a huge fan of Hush. It's one of my favorite Batman stories, bar none. I heard about this and I dropped what I had in my hand. Thankfully, it wasn't anything that was breakable or anything else. And I was like, no way. I know there were some mixed reviews on the internet from what I could see, but I don't care about what other people's opinions were. Mm-hmm. I was super stoked for this. Dude, Jim Lee back, drawing Batman again. Man, the only thing that's better for me is like when Scott and Greg Capullo get back together for, I'm not saying anything, but that's just me because I'm a huge Scott Snyder fan from his Batman run, in which I'm still upset that I was out of town and had to miss that interview because I could finally have talked Batman with Scott Snyder. Because every time I do an interview with Scott, it's for something else. And of course, I'm being a professional. But as a huge Batman fan, this is one of my favorite Batman stories. You bring in two amazing writer, amazing artists. Let's go. Let's go. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna yell it like Ken did because we have to keep it PG for the most part here on YouTube. But let's go. I can't wait. After I borrow a line from Kevin Smith. After March, after that run, I could probably die a happy man. I'll be okay.
Yeah,
just gotta stay along. I just gotta stay alive long enough to the summer, I guess, when the arc's over.
No, you're right. You're right. As far as Hush 2 is concerned, for me, I was kind of. Do I need this? I'm happy to have Jim Lee back. Do not get me wrong. He's phenomenal. But how long has it been since the original Hush?
But here's the thing. I've always thought that they dropped the ball on not following that character more.
Okay.
Because as I understand, we all love the Joker and we know that that's the yin to Batman's yang. But the real parallel opposite of Batman is Hush.
Oh, I'm not saying it's not. But I mean, it just from a marketing perspective, and I'm sorry, we're just gonna have the banter right now, real quick.
Yes, okay, that's fine.
Do we need it now? Is this DC's idea of okay, we're gonna go do the Vertigo thing, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do the all in. Hey, I'm just
go ahead.
I think with a story involving the creators that it is, when they said they were ready, DC said go for it.
Okay. Fair enough.
And I also want to say, yeah, and I'm going to say everything you just said. I'm going to say yes, because that story crosses some of those lines.
Okay.
You could easily do that as the first Vertigo Batman story. And like I said, for me as a fan, and not just of that story in particular, but Batman in general, I really feel like there's been a lot left on the bones as far as that villain goes, because let's be honest. And I use the word villain in a weird term because in a lot of ways he's not a villain.
He's not.
But technically he is just basically if you had that scene where if you watch the scene in The Crow where Brandon Lee paints his face and he looks in the mirror, but of course he sees himself, although he knows he's it's like that's what it is. It's Batman looking at what Batman could have became.
It's one bad day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on there, and
again,
then,
I'm not saying that it's
no,
bad.
no, I got you.
Tom, we got you.
I love you. I love your devil's advocate stuff.
It's okay to do.
You.
But that wasn't the only big news coming out from DC. We got some more absolute and all-in titles coming. I know one that we have circled here on Turn a Page: Justice League: The Atom Project by John Ridley, art by Mike Perkins, and co-written by Ryan Parrott.
I know. Yes. Let's go. I messaged him directly. Told him, dude, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's an exciting one there. And then one from the the Absolute line that I marked out when I heard about this. Absolute Martian Manhunter. Dennis Camp and Javier Rodriguez are the creative team behind this. I will throw the graphic back up and mark my words. This is going to be one of the most talked about books of the new year. This is going to be an absolute mind-blowing experience.
The art on this reminds me really of that trippy 60s vibe. It really just takes you out of it. So I cannot wait. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm on it.
Yeah. And plus Dennis Camp right now, I mean, if you read 20th Century Men, which is one of the most intense reads you're ever going to do, it's phenomenal. The Ultimates, his Bloodshot work. I mean, like anything Dennis does is very, very good, very detailed, very thematic. It is going to, and the fact that he's going to do this with Martian Manhunter and especially in the Absolute line, like he gets to really run some places with it. This is going to be a big bucket to win.
And I like what was said. It was basically said, hey, Scott called him and had a conversation and said, hey, who do you want outside the big five?
Yeah.
Like that's how much respect was there. And that's how much Scott Snyder was putting together the Absolute universe there. And he said Martian Manhunter, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, wow, I would have never guessed somebody would pick that first. But hey, I'm so excited for it. I think it's going to be a great story. And it's the right person writing the story. And of course, we got to mention, if we're talking about Absolute, and of course, I'm a Batman fan, we did get to see the photo of the new Batmobile,
yeah,
which is just a tank. It's a tank.
Lauren, what has been your take on DC's all-in and Absolute movement?
I really haven't followed it much. I've heard amazing things. I do have Matt bringing me the Absolute Batman this weekend, but I really I'm not great at DC Comics and following DC Comics. I need to get better. I heard nothing but great things about Hush, so to hear that they're doing another round, maybe I need to pick up the first one.
I will say this: if you haven't gotten into DC, now is the perfect time to.
Absolutely.
No matter which line you want to go to, no matter what line you want to go to, the all-in movement is all fresh starts on all the books. Like when you see the white cover, it says all in. That's the first start of a brand new arc. So you can jump in as a new reader and you can definitely fall in love with these characters. Like there's so much amazing things going on. that, for my opinion, for New York Comic Con as a whole, DC won this weekend hands down. Their Penguin panel was amazing. They did the mid-season trailer, and everything that they were announcing, like you saw the buzz and the Javits after these panels. This is, and I always hate making the comparison like the Hall H moments, but this is what it was. Like you saw everybody was amped up about this, and to see it get done in this way, like I say, it was just one that definitely blew me away. Your co-host has chimed in. He's going to need you for recording very shortly here because he definitely wants to talk about some DC. So we can wrap this up very quickly. Is there any panels or any experiences very quickly that you definitely want to shout out as we put a final touch on New York Comic Con?
Ladies first, and she's got to go.
The only one I really didn't mention was the Epic Universe panel, which they really didn't announce anything, but it was just kind of fun. So I do have an article coming out about that.
Two new characters to Villains Land, and everybody latched onto it. Oh my God, like Velcro.
Oh, I've never been to a panel where people were cheering so much.
Me.
But, as somebody who lives in Orlando, I am excited. I'm not going to go when the park first opens. I'm going to wait till the chaos dies down. But that'll be very exciting. And yeah, my article will be out soon on that. It's all about ready to go. So really, I think I touched on everything, and I had a fantastic time, and it exceeded my expectations, and I'm going to go take a nap.
All right, definitely. Tom?
I've got a bunch of stuff coming out, a bunch of TV stuff, a bunch of streaming stuff. Let's also shout out to our friends over at Mad Cave Studios. They hosted the Saturday morning cartoons panel as well. And I don't think I told you guys this, but they started off with all the theme songs from all the shows, and they were asking for people to sing along. So, yeah, I did that.
All right.
As defenders of the earth. There's just so much stuff coming out. I am so happy to always go to Comic-Con. It is an amazing experience, and I hope that you guys get to see it too. We've barely scratched the surface, let's be freaking honest.
Yeah. All right, Rich, how about you?
I was going to say,
do a whole hour on the floor.
I'm going to try to be short about this, but there's a lot of shout outs that were behind the scenes, if you will, not in panels. So, dude, meeting Joey Esposito and Sean Von Gorman, who do The Pedestrian, was awesome. They were just super pumped up, and it was awesome to be able just to be a fanboy for a minute, even though it's a book that I review. It's also a book that I really enjoy, and those guys really enjoy making it. I cannot listen. It's a hard book to sell because all I can tell you is it's quirky, but it's fun and it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's really. That's it. Like you get it, but when you talk to other people about it who like it, you're just like, oh my God, this is just this really wild story that you have to just see play out. Also, big shout outs to Massive Publishing, who Kevin over there at the booth. Dude, so awesome, so cordial to us. We're going to be doing more work with them. Big shout outs to Michael Kingston. We stopped by and saw him, and Vampiro, which we got to meet Vampiro because the awesome Vampiro book out right now. If you ain't got it, you got to go get it. And I definitely have my signed Born Follow the Leader, inspired cover, which is amazing. So that was a big deal. I got to meet Blake Northcott real quickly. I've been reviewing. I reviewed Barbarella #1. Can't wait for #2. So I'll be reviewing that as well. So that was awesome. I can't say enough. Very nice. She was very nice. They got people over at Storm King. Shout outs to them. Treated me and Ken really well. I've been working on a bunch of books. You're going to have a bunch of graphic novel reviews coming out in the next couple weeks from them because they are graphic novels, but they do an awesome job, and their books look amazing in person. So just check those guys out. And man, if I forgot, you know what? I'll do the cheesy thing. All the Nerd Initiative team that was there, fucking awesome to meet you guys. Yes, I dropped my F-bomb here at the end, so at least they won't know it. It was, to get to meet Lauren for the first time in person, to meet Nick for the first time in person, because we spent a lot of time with him doing Wrestling Live. Of course, I always love seeing Tom. He might not be officially Nerd Initiative, but Eric, shout outs to Eric for rocking the Nerd Initiative lanyard all weekend. So that was awesome. And then, of course, the GEO, Michael is in the house and everybody else. So it was amazing to hang out with everybody, spend time. Of course, Padawan Jay for his bachelor party. Shouts out to him and getting me and Ken M here to dress up in suits this upcoming weekend. So
yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is actually short for Rich, just so you know.
Yes, I know. I could have gone dude, I could gush all day.
Yeah.
It's horrible. Let's stop me. Cut me off.
I know. Like I say, I mean, for me, it's just I'll just keep it very short, sweet. For every creator we interacted with, for every publicist that treated us with such amazing hospitality
and
this entire weekend, companies as well, to every other content creator we met. Shout out to Chris from the Bada Boom podcast. Like I say, Eric always is a friend of the show. And like I say, everybody that we have interacted with at New York Comic Con, and especially our team at Nerd Initiative, who put in a ton of work. More content and more videos are coming out this week. So we want to just make sure you're following Nerd Initiative on all your social media accounts and your YouTube channels, because we have so much stuff coming out. Like, you want to catch up on everything that happened at NYCC. The home of pop culture positivity is the place to be for that. And I will end it very short and very sweet. Thank you to Reed Pop for allowing us to come down as press and cover. And thank you to everybody for giving us your time tonight to talk about New York Comic Con. And we'll just end it like we usually do on Turn a Page. When you're at a comic shop and you have a great issue in your hand that you picked up at New York Comic Con, and you see somebody struggling to find something, hand yours